I think everyone thinks it's like you're on the beach in this paradise, but also dodging killer animals at all times.
What I believe happens in Australia is, yes, you sit on the beach, and kangaroos wearing like little bow ties bring you drinks.
Yeah.
You know, trained kangaroos, obviously. You know, they have them in their little pouch. Yeah. They bring out a drink and you put the money in the pouch. I have yet to have anyone prove me wrong that is how Australia is. I demand a trained kangaroo for the fantasy football happy hour. TGIF, kids. Thank God it is Friday. It's noon here on Peacock, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere, so bottoms up to you. Connor J. Rogers making his debut on the happy hour. Of course, my name is Matthew Berry. Connor, you are the lead draft analyst for Bleacher Report. You spent 8 years at Bleacher Report. Of course, you also host the NFL Stock Exchange podcast for our friends over at Pro Football Focus, and you're a snappy dresser.
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Yeah, and you're also like 12. Did you get ID'd on the way in here? Like, are you allowed to drink with us? Like, how old are you? You're like, you literally, damn it. Here's the thing. I get out of ESPN. I no longer have to sit next to Field Yates, thank God, who looks 12 next to me, and now I'm here with you, Connor, who looks 11 and a half. Why do people keep putting good-looking young guys next to me? Is it just like, hey, maybe we can distract from Barry's balding head? Did they give you that note when they gave you the gig?
It's the only reason I'm here. I hate to tell you, I'm not here for football knowledge. And it's true, I started Bleacher Report when I was 4 years old. Because I am 12, so this is I have to be careful on camera here with drinking.
I'm not gonna lie, you got a good head of lettuce over there.
Thank you, sir.
I'm jealous. That is, I have hair jealousy of you. But in all seriousness, you do a great job. You came to our attention because I think you just do an absolutely fantastic job of covering the draft, of really studying the players, of breaking down the X's and O's. You've done it for Bleacher Report for so many years, and we're thrilled to have you here on the happy hour. Lots of news to get to, including the fact that Damien Pierce, here's my question. Is it, for 101, is it Jonathan Taylor or Damien Pierce as we get into our Rotoworld headlines? I mean, like, have they fitted Damien Pierce for his Hall of Fame jacket yet, or do you think you wait until after the first game here? Is he more like a young Barry Sanders or a young Emmitt Smith?
Yeah.
Break down Damien Pierce for me here.
This is our preseason rocket ship, right? Damien Pierce goes from fourth-round pick that nobody cares about, right, and now he is the talk of town in fantasy land. Now, when I watched Damien Pierce out of Florida, and there's not much tape in the beginning of the season because Dan Mullen would not hand the guy the football, Matthew. I mean, he was not getting 10 carries a game. Mullen gets fired. Pierce has 2 monster games, goes into the draft cycle, dominates at the Senior Bowl. Everybody loves the limited tape that he has because he's a power runner that's explosive off the touch. Reminded me of a young David Montgomery at Iowa State with the power, but he's a little bit more explosive. But the reason you believe in him as a rookie on the field right away is he's one of the best pass-protecting backs from the draft last year, and that's what gets you on the field, especially with the veteran staff there. So when you look at Pierce, he does one thing, Matthew, that translates to the NFL that is one of the more surefire things. He breaks tackles. He breaks tackles. And when you break tackles in the SEC, that is something we find in the draft community that consistently translates to the NFL level, and that's how we got here with his rise with the Texans.
Yeah, and I think people are going to be like, okay, so now where do I draft him? Like, again, I'm joking about the Emmitt Smith, Jonathan Taylor stuff, but, like, he is the buzziest of buzzy players in the preseason. We always want to take a pause here in terms of, like, okay, because we've seen this before where guys have huge preseasons and then just, completely disappoint. I hate to do it to the poor kid, but I always feel like Darwin Thompson is the poster boy for this. A couple years ago with Kansas City, just had an amazing preseason, then just did nothing fantasy-wise. But we both think, and hearing what you're saying is like, we think it's the real deal, right?
Yeah.
And you, also, by the way, you think about the tech. I think people shied away from him because of a couple reasons. Unknown, right? Not a lot of draft capital because of the 4th-round pick, and going to Texans. Houston, like he's not going to be a guy that is going to be on the field because they're not going to be running because they're going to be down because they're bad. But if he's good at pass pro, he's going to be in on passing down situations. Any concern? Do you think this is a guy that has a chance to be a 3-down back? Is he a decent pass catcher? What was the comp on him coming out of college for that?
Yeah, I do, and that's why you go back to David Montgomery, not a guy that's going to be motioned out to the slot and running routes in a Christian McCaffrey mold or anything like that, but an outlet out of the backfield where he has soft enough hands to catch the ball, make the first guy miss, and pick up the extra yards. And let's be honest, another reason why we like Damien Pierce is because Davis Mills is a guy that's going to be looking to that outlet pass.
Correct.
This is not going to be a vertical offense outside of Brandon Cooks. The wide receiver room does not impress you by any stretch of the means. Davis Mills has had problems this summer pushing the ball down the field, and that leads you to kind of buy into, like you said, whether it's garbage time, those short outlet throws, or running the ball early in the game. And the fact that, let's be real, who else on this roster in this backfield scares you for the workload at all, affecting Pierce?
Well, that's a great point, right? So you think about Marlon Mack, right? Marlon Mack didn't play until the second half in this game. Rex Burkhead took third and long snaps. He was also in an early downs on the second drive in the first half. But again, right, you're just like, fantasy is about talent and opportunity. We just talked about the talent of Damien Pierce. This is somebody that you liked a lot coming out of college, and opportunity is there. They're rebuilding in Houston, and they know, all due respect to Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, those guys aren't the future. They've got to get reps for Davis Mills. They got to get reps for Damien Pierce. Remember, their offensive coordinator is Pep Hamilton, and now Pep's bounced around the NFL and other leagues as well.
It's not just the NFL.
But the last time he was the offensive coordinator of a team, that was in Indianapolis, okay? 2013 to 2015. He was the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator. A 30-year-old Frank Gore, 30 to 32-year-old Frank Gore, was fourth in the NFL in total fantasy points. I'm sorry, he was running back 8 in total points. He had the fourth most rushing yards. So Pep Hamilton is somebody who has had success running the ball and creating schemes to get guys open. I think the volume and talent there is Pierce. The question becomes, okay, now where do you draft him?
Yeah.
Because all the projections are off, and if you're going into your draft this weekend, what do you do? For me, I'm going to update my rankings on Monday, honestly, but I think he's right there in that 20 to 25 range for me among running backs here. Like, I'd take him over Josh Jacobs. I'd take him over Breece Hall. You know, I'd take him over Antonio Gibson. We're going to talk about him in a second. Like, he's in that range of that, you know, we call it the running back dead zone there towards that, you know, towards the end of the top 20. But I think he is a borderline top 20 running back and should be drafted as such if you're heading into your draft this weekend before sort of ranks and projections get updated.
Yeah, I think he's cemented himself in that top 25 because, once again, he's not competing for touches. They're treating him like a veteran starter. They haven't been putting a big workload on him. He didn't have a big workload in college. So these are fresh legs, and he's going to need them because you're going to be hit a lot in the backfield, unfortunately, for the Texans. But one, variable in this that I'm watching is they drafted Kenyon Green in the first round, the big hulking guard from Texas A&M. He finally made his debut this week for the Texans with the reserves, looked really good as a run blocker. So you look at the Texans, and one of the critiques of Pierce is, well, what is he running behind? This is a unit that's getting better in the trenches. They are taking, that front office came from New England. They're taking that mold of being a run-first team. He's the run-first back. You bring up Frank Gore. Pep doesn't need these shifty, speedy outside zone runners to thrive. You can have a bit of a hulk in between the tackles. So Pierce is a good fit for what they want to do, and a team that they have a long ways to go, but they are trending the right direction on the offensive line.
Obviously, Lovie Smith, as a defensive coordinator, a defensive-minded head coach, comes in there. I think they're going to be conservative. And also, by the way, if you have a bad offensive line, volume masks a lot of that. And we expect Damien Pierce, the way that they're using him in the preseason and the competition he has in that running back room, I don't think this is a three-headed committee. I think this is Damien Pierce is the starting running back. I think he's got a chance to be a bell cow running back for an NFL team, and that has a lot of fantasy value. Let's move on now to a real veteran, and that's Tom Brady, who's actually expected to play in the preseason finale. We still don't know what he was doing. Was he filming The Masked Singer? We don't know.
Golden question of the summer.
By the way, my the social media person, we have this great person, Kendall Valenzuela, who you may know because she used to do a podcast at Pro Football Focus as well. Kendall Valenzuela, who comes over to fantasylife.com, and she runs our social for us, and she's an analyst for us, does a great job. She's the one that floated that theory first. Like, she did a video, and it just sort of blew up. So props to Kendall, because everyone was talking about the fact that was Brady on The Masked Singer.
The internet ran with it.
It's a great theory. Everyone ran with it. Internet ran with it. We don't know where he was, but here's what we do know. He's going to play in the preseason finale after missing some time in training camp, and more importantly, the concerns on the offensive lines, Connor. How concerned, if at all, are you on Tom Brady? I'll just say this. I'm at QB5. I'm in on TB12 this year.
No concern at all. 3 rules of every day, Matthew Barrett. I'm not a big rules guy.
Right, clearly.
Wake up, make your bed, brush your teeth, and don't bet against Tom Brady. It's as simple as that. That's all you have to know. You do not ever wake up and go, today's the day I'm going to pick against Tom Brady. And that's in any rule, whether it's betting, whether it's fantasy, whether it's actual football games. Tom Brady is back, and he's going to play in the preseason. And he's throwing again to Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Yeah. Now they have Julio Jones and Russell Gage.
And look at him moving through these cones. Look at this. Look at this footage. Like,
this is the reason to believe
you think a bad quarterback could just walk through cones in shorts and no pads with no pressure on him? I think not.
Yeah, I'm all in.
Anyway, but I don't think making your bed is a rule, more of a guideline. I'm not a, whatever.
It's a routine.
I'm not a bed maker.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to get messed up again.
Well,
my wife is a bed maker.
Gonna say,
my wife does. My
girlfriend is.
Okay,
so
your girlfriend. Right, so there you go.
Still counts.
Fair enough.
Teamwork.
But I do agree, like I was going to say, like, death taxes don't bet against Tom Brady. We're both there. Like, by the way, Brady has played in every year that he's been healthy. Brady's participated in at least one preseason game since he was drafted in 2000. So I think the people are just like, why is he playing? Is he concerned? That kind of, no. Like, Todd Bowles said this. Here's a quote. We have some new guys on the O-line. We have some new guys at receiver. So other than having practice together, we need to see him in a game in certain situations and just the flow of it. No matter how long it is, we just need to see it, which makes total sense. And by the way Tom Brady, runs a team, he's going to be like, what are you talking to the right tackle? What are you doing?
Yes.
You need to come off that. You need to take one step back, a step early or whatever. Like, he'll yell at those guys.
Yeah,
he'll
he's
snap
particular.
He's particular. He'll snap him into shape.
You and Tom Brady, the same people.
100%, absolutely.
Everyone says it.
Everyone says it. We are when him and I walk into the same room, people are like, which one's which? 1,000%.
Happened to me.
We're exactly the same in every aspect except none of them. All right, except we're both over 40. That's literally what I have in common with. The only things I have in common with Tom Brady. I was not even. I was going to say we're both over 40, and we're both men. That's pretty much it. That's all we have in common.
And you have kids.
We both have kids. We're both fathers, and that's. And I was going to say we both outkicked our coverage because my wife is so much better looking than I am. But I don't know if that's true because Giselle is beautiful, of course, but so's Tom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that Tom outkicked his coverage. I think they're both sort of equals. So, right, exactly.
Are you on the TB12 diet?
No, I'm on the chicken finger diet.
Okay, I like that.
No, is what I am. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm on the chicken finger and Choco Taco diet.
Rest in peace, Choco Taco.
I've been hoarding them. Okay, so this is I really wanted to save this for you because this is I think one of the most fascinating. As buzzy as Damien Pierce has been in the preseason, Treylon Burks is anti-buzzy. I don't know that anyone's stock has dropped more in the fantasy community over the preseason than Treylon Burks, who everyone was like, this is the A.J. Brown replacement.
Yeah.
Robert Woods is 30 years old, coming off the ACL tear. They don't really have anyone else. He's physically like A.J. Brown. Like, this is the A.J. Brown comp. He's the replacement. He's going to be a beast. And then he's playing with a fourth string? What do we make of this Treylon Burks situation, Connor?
It's concerning. Let's just call it what it is.
Right.
And this has been going on since OTAs, right? This is a pattern now of being in and out of OTAs, being in and out of training camp, whether it's little injuries, whether it's, not maybe being up to football level shape. There's a lot of weird things.
Held out of practice on Thursday.
I don't like weird things consistently.
I'm with you. To your point, left practice early on Wednesday. We don't know what the injury was. Held out of practice on Thursday. Spotted with a wrap on his left leg after the second preseason game the Titans played against the Buccaneers. Like, a lot of bad juju around Treylon Burks. But does that mean there's a buying opportunity? He's currently going as 121 on Yahoo. I have him at wide receiver 53. I have him slightly higher than where he's going on Yahoo. They have him at wide receiver 62. I'm at 53. But I'm outside my top 50. My feeling there at 53, and I may have to lower him even more, but my feeling was he's a first round pick. They don't, like, all due respect to Nick Westbrook-Aquino, like, they don't have a lot after Robert Woods. They need Treylon Burks to work.
They do, and it's a little concerning, right, when you hear more buzz about a day 3 slot guy and Kyle Phillips that they drafted.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, whoa, okay, that we're more concerned there. So I think with Burks, the problem is, and this goes back to college, and I liked him, especially physically, what he could do with the ball in his hands. But that's the trick. You need to get creative, get the ball in his hands. He won basically 3 ways in college. Vertically, which is great. Obviously on screens, because he can catch and run after the catch. And then really pitch passes. They would give him sweeps. They would use him as a ball carrier because he has build-up speed around the edge. Tennessee did not really look interested in doing that early in the preseason so far. Yeah. Is he now – do you need involvement to get him going, get him on the right track? And when you're not practicing, especially a guy like Mike Vrabel, yes, coach of the year, but a bit of a hardo, and it works. It works, but
he's from the Belichick school, right?
Yes, Vrabel is a move the drill guy, right? If you get hurt, he moves the drill beyond you. If you're not practicing, he moves beyond you. Yeah. I'm concerned. I would be completely lying, especially in a rookie wide receiver class where other talent is popping here, and it's not just the round 1 talent; it's the day 2 talent. Burks has not. Now he has time, But if you're expecting big things this year just because there's open workload there, volume there, it feels like a bit of a wish right now.
I love Robert Woods. Robert Woods made my love-hate list this year, specifically not just because of the, I know people are like, it's 30 ACL, but this is a guy who's been a top 20 wide receiver ever since he came to LA. He was used inconsistently in Buffalo, but for the majority of his career, Robert Woods has always been a top 20 fantasy wide receiver, and he's going to get a lot of volume, whether it's Tannehill or ultimately Malik Willis. I think Tannehill's the starter this year, unless he gets hurt. Willis is more of a project. Tannehill's going to look for the veteran guy. The great thing about Robert Woods is that Robert Woods is hey, I need you to run 10 yards and 2 feet and take a right. He runs 10 yards, 2 feet, and takes a right. Like, he's a very precise route runner, which I think will help Ryan Tannehill. He'll really appreciate that. I think he's the value. I think he is the value in the Tennessee wide receiver core. Burks feels like, a late-round flyer if you're dealing with him at all in a redraft league.
That's exactly right. Let's keep the concern train moving, unfortunately, and talk about Antonio Gibson, who is just in a really strange place right now. You hear special teams. You hear that he likes the return aspect of the game, but you're seeing a lot of Brian Robinson early. Gibson does have the fumbling issues. Where is your concern level right now with Antonio Gibson, and how much does this special teams role play into that?
It's significant.
Okay.
For me, here's the biggest concern, and you know me, I'm a Washington Commanders homer, right? Hail to the Commanders, hail victory. Like, that's my team. I'm a lifelong fan, and I love Antonio Gibson. I have him on literally almost every dynasty team I have, so this is a bit of a concern. That said, yes, I don't put as much into the returning kicks thing as other people do. People like always being banished to special teams. I think that's a need for Washington. Like, Washington's had bad special teams.
He's good at it.
And he's good at it. He returned kicks during his time at Memphis. So this is, I believe this is Ron Rivera saying, like, hey, we've got a guy that can do this well, and we have a need here, so we're going to do that. We're just trying to get. But having said that, when you're playing on special teams, that's less snaps that you're playing. They do like Brian Robinson. You mentioned the fumbles. No running back had more actual fumbles or lost fumbles last year than Antonio Gibson, right? As you see it here on your screen, right? 6 lost fumbles in 2021, the most among running backs.
It's unplayable.
And I will tell you, talking to people around the team, there are people in Washington that feel like Antonio Gibson single-handedly lost them a couple of games last year with crucial late fourth quarter fumbles in enemy territory. That's one of the reasons why they drafted Brian Robinson. This is a concerning. This is what I put in my love-hate column, by the way. He also made the hate. I mean, for me to put a Washington Commander player on the hate list, there's concern, Connor. Get this. Last year, Antonio Gibson was 38th among running backs in fantasy points per touch, minimum 100 touches. In other words, like, if he's not getting great volume, which is what he got last year, even with J.D. McKissic around, like, that's problematic. We have no guarantee that he's going to get the goal line rolled. Brian Robinson's a big bruising back, right? I mean, you can talk about that.
The Alabama factory.
Alabama factory, exactly. Like, find yourself someone who looks at you the way that Washington Commanders look at guys coming out of Nick Saban's program. They love the Crimson Tide in Washington. And so Robinson, who is a finisher in college and has looked good in the preseason, even if Gibson gets half the work as opposed to the majority of the goal line work on this team that we think is going to be in scoring position more often, and with Carson Wentz, they probably throw more. Getting Logan Thomas back helps as well, another big red zone target. I'm super concerned with Antonio Gibson, especially at his current ADP. He's going as running back 22 and 57th overall. I have him at running back 27, number 72 overall. I'm lower on him in the running back ranks and in the consensus. And honestly, I think I'm going to drop him even further. If there's one shining spot for Antonio Gibson is if you watch those games, they're actually using him on third down. He actually may be taking the J.D. McKissic role, weirdly, because people forget Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver at Memphis.
Yes.
Like, he's a converted running back, and so maybe they're just like, you know what? We're going to use you on kicks. We're going to use you, try to create some mismatches in the backfield, but we're also going to use you on third down in the passing game role, which gives him value in fantasy, but not where he's being drafted.
It sounds like Cordell Patterson when you say it like that, but obviously a different situation
and
last
different
year.
player, but
absolutely.
Yeah, but
the Brian Robinson draft pick interests me so much because he's almost the exact opposite in so many different ways. Ball security is great. He's obviously a big hulking back. He doesn't bring that 4-3 explosive play threat in any sense. But where I wonder in fantasy, or at least where I'm significantly concerned, is I do think Brian Robinson's the goal line back from day one. And I think Gibson gets completely phased out in that situation where if you're not in a PPR league, I mean, we're talking top 25 running back.
Right.
That's a really high value for a guy that really won't be significant in the red zone. So he's a tough evaluation right now. I agree with you. They like him as more of a weapon, I think, than a true running back.
I just want to ask you one quick question here before we go to break. You're in a draft. Clock's ticking down. Antonio Gibson or Damien Pierce?
I'm taking Pierce.
Yeah.
I'm taking Pierce.
I'm with you. I used to do this on my old show. We used to call it the name game, and then it went away. So I think I'm allowed to do it, and whatever. If I get a cease and desist, I get a cease and desist. So real quickly, Antonio Gibson or Josh Jacobs?
I still go with Antonio Gibson.
I agree.
There is no good sign with what's going on with Josh Jacobs right now. That started when they didn't pick up the fifth-year option, and it's carried over throughout the entire summer.
Antonio Gibson or A.J. Dillon?
A.J. Dillon.
Agreed, 100%. Antonio Gibson or David Montgomery?
Still going with Antonio Gibson. I don't like anything about the Bears' run game right now.
I might go with Montgomery if the Khalil Herbert injury is a little bit more serious than we think, because he just insane volume on Montgomery, but that's a tough one. We'll talk about him coming up later in the show. Antonio Gibson or Damian Harris?
I go with Antonio Gibson.
I agree, but Antonio Gibson or Ramondre Stevenson?
I probably lean Ramondre.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Same thing. Look at
New England has a type. Ramondre was LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah.
And then they draft him again. Teams do this in the draft, Matthew. Yeah. They go, oh, we used to have that. We loved it. Let's do it again. That's why Ramondre, you look at open lane to be the guy there in New England. For a team that loves to run the ball.
Did we just become best friends? Yes, we did.
Don't
touch my drum set. Don't touch my drum set. We'll be back on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. We're going to get Connor a fake ID so he can drink.
I just want you to think of one name now. One name.
Okay.
Wan'Dale Robinson. All you people in the last round of your draft, if he's there, take him and thank me later.
That's the great Peter King from the Rotoworld Draft Guide show, now available on the new NFL on NBC YouTube channel. Of course, I'm a company man. My biggest question after hearing that quote from Peter King is he right? Is Wan'Dale one name? He said one name. Is Wan'Dale two names?
I think it's one name.
I think he's right.
Yes.
Peter King's usually right.
Yeah.
He's always really good on those late run sleepers. Of course, he spends time at these training camps. He talks to everyone. I know personally that he is really tight with the Giants specifically. They like Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yes, they do.
All the buzz out of camp. Now it's interesting because Sterling Shepard came back off the PUP list, and I saw video on Twitter last night that he's running routes, and so we'll see if he's ready for week one. But Sterling Shepard's going to be a part of this offense. You've got Kadarius Toney, who's also kind of a gadget guy the same way that Wan'Dale Robinson is. And Kenny Golladay accounts for $42.6 million of the Giants' cap. It is the most in the NFL. I would argue it is the worst contract in the NFL. Dave Gettleman, should have been fired just on that contract alone.
Yeah.
Where are we on? I'm sorry. Brian Rubin's very mad at me. B. Rubes is very mad at me because he came up with the premise of the segment. It's rookies versus veterans. Because I think you're the rookie because you're new here. Understand?
That's right.
And I'm the veteran.
Day one.
Because I'm old. That's what it is. That's B. Rubes. He's really proud of himself. So I apologize. I just want right. Let me turn to camera one. Can we just go to camera one right here? I'm Brian Rubin. I'm sorry. I know you spent a lot of time on rookies versus veterans. So let me just make this up to you right now. Here we go. Time now for the exciting segment, Rookies versus Veterans. We don't have a graphic? Ruben, you built this up at the meeting.
To nothing.
In the pre-show meeting, Ruben built this up so much. We don't have a stupid graphic? What are we doing? Wait, what? Good God. Go get me a lobster roll, Rubes. Anyway, all right. I got high. You have no idea. It's, I'm so proud. Come on, Rookies versus Veterans. What a great premise. We don't even have a graphic. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Maybe music.
Nothing. We got
Heavy
nothing.
metal.
We got 3 words on it. We got 3 words on a sheet. Is what we got.
Well, we got
versus
us.
Veterans.
So
there we go. That's the premise. All right, here we go. Rookies versus Veterans. Here's the premise. Seriously. Oh, there we go. We don't even have a good graphic on the. Look how lame if you're watching at home. It's literally printed. There's not even a fun font. for rookies versus veterans. It's like the lamest chyron ever. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry. But that, the truth of the matter is like everyone was just like, oh, it's happy hour, so Matthew can drink on the show. Because I was going to be like, I'm going to get my Kathy Lee and Hoda on. I want to, it's noon here on Peacock, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Like, throw some beer, some alcohol. I got wine actually today. And so then everyone else is like, oh, well, if Barry's drinking, we can all drink. And like, no. Everyone else has to stay sober to do your jobs. I'm the one that can be, a little buzzed.
Camera plummets.
Yeah, exactly. All right, here we go. Let's get into this.
Wandale
Robinson. Will Wandale Robinson's high draft capital turn Kenny Golladay into a sunk cost for the Giants? If you have to pick one, if I'm, if we're sitting here on draft day, Kenny Golladay or Wandale Robinson, both guys going. I mean, Kenny Golladay is being drafted as wide receiver 54, 144 overall on Yahoo. Wandale Robinson isn't even being drafted. He's number 226 overall, but like. Both guys in a lot of 10 and 12 team drafts are not going drafted at all. You in on one, both, or neither?
I'm not necessarily in on either of them, but I think there's a trickle effect here.
Okay.
I think Wandale makes Kadarius Toney irrelevant to me, which I know might seem like a crazy thing to say.
Especially because, by the way, he looked good last year.
Yes, two explosive games. You always have to keep new regimes in mind. I'll be completely transparent. When we did draft day, I was floored by this pick, Wandale Robinson.
Okay.
Because, yes, it wasn't their pick. It was Dave Gettleman's pick of Kadarius Toney in the first round 2 years ago.
Sure.
But Wandale Robinson is a slot player, and he's a bit of a gadget player. You can work him on shallow crossers, but he's a guy that you're going to do pitch passes, sweeps, bubble screens, get the ball in his hands and expect big plays. And then when you look at Kadarius Toney, that should be his role as well.
Right.
So this to me was, this regime has their guy. You have a Buffalo regime that used Isaiah McKenzie in this role. So I'm very fearful of Kadarius Toney. Kenny Golladay has made himself irrelevant on his own, not healthy, not effective anymore. So I guess if you're buying any of the three, Wandale's intriguing, but I don't think any of the three are fantasy relevant right now.
I don't mind him as a late round flyer. Again, I'm just telling you, Peter King's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, and before we ever worked together. And Peter King and I have a tradition. We've done it for a decade now, where like about a week before the season, Peter King and I would get on the phone together, and like I would help him with his fantasy draft, just sort of like ADP and that kind of stuff. And he would say and I'd be like, give me 3 or 4 guys that as you went through camp, and he would every year there'd be one gem, one absolute gem. Like my favorite is he gave me Randall Cobb, the year Randall Cobb broke through, and no one was talking about Randall Cobb. Anyway, so when Peter King tells me like, hey, into your draft, Wandale Robinson, thank me later, my eyebrows go up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just telling. Peter knows his stuff, and he knows that organization really well. Obviously, Peter's a legend. So I'm sort of in on it from that standpoint, like as a late-round flyer, and obviously he's interesting in Dynasty. I'm a Brian Daboll believer. I do believe he'll turn that around, but I think cards stacked against them this year. Let's move on to the other New York team, the Jets here, and Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Is Breece Hall being overdrafted with uncertainty around his workload here? I did a whole Breece Hall thing yesterday, so I want to turn this one over to you. The pro Breece Hall argument is super talented, great college tape and high draft capital. Now, where are you? Anyway. So, what are your thoughts on Breece Hall versus Michael Carter? I should give you this context here. Before you answer. Hang on. And by giving you, I really mean the audience. Breece Hall is currently going as running back 19 on Yahoo.
That's early.
Running back 19, 38th overall. Michael Carter's going as running back 46. Basically 25 picks later at running back, 108th overall. So, anyway, Michael Carter or Breece Hall, both, neither one.
I think Hall is being a little slightly overvalued and Carter is being undervalued because I think this is a Jets staff that they don't look at it and go, we have a goal line back or we have a pass catching back. They're just going to use both of them. They're going to look at their obviously they come from San Francisco. If you look at LaFleur, his brother in Green Bay, the way they use running backs, they are going to use both these guys. They are going to run the ball a lot. What we like about Breece Hall is that he's big, he's fast, he can be a 3-down player, and Michael Carter has a little bit of an injury history now. He got banged up last year when they increased his workload. So I think if you're drafting Breece Hall with that kind of value or that premium, you're expecting the big results down the road, second half of the season. So if you can survive till then, I think the results for Breece Hall are going to be very big from week 8 and on. But early on, Michael Carter is the guy that's returning into this system. I think it's going to be more of a split work share where that's a big draft capital for Breece Hall.
Breece Hall made my hate list because he's going top 18, top 19 among running backs. I just think that's insane for a running back that, to your point, is going to be in a committee on a team that ran the ball the least in the NFL last year. No team had less rushing attempts last year than the New York Jets. And there's not a lot coming into this season where I'm like, well, all of a sudden this team's going to be able to really ram it down people's throats. Like, it's still a work in progress. And by the way, any potential optimism you had for this Jets team's rushing offense, to me, went out the window when Mekhi Becton's out for the year.
Yes.
It's a bad offensive line and they just lose Becton? Like their best offensive lineman? I don't know. I get it in Dynasty. And
sure.
we none of us are questioning Breece Hall's talent, but I'm not even convinced, unless something happens to Michael Carter, where he just gets tons of volume. I'm with you. I think, again, Breece Hall on the hate list for me because of where he's being drafted. I much prefer Michael Carter, going, running back 46, getting, even if he gets 40%, and he's going to get more passing down work than I think Breece Hall will. I think he's certainly the better value if you decide to invest in the Jets' running attack. What about the Jets' passing attack here, Connor? Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. Can Zach Wilson support multiple fantasy wide receivers? We know he can juggle his personal life.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways I could go with that. But you know what? It's a Friday. I don't want Alexa to have to answer more HR emails. Whatever. It'd be bad if I got canceled my first week, right? Second week, it's fine.
First day.
But first day would be bad. I don't want to stain you with that. But let me just say that when I was saying Zach Wilson can juggle multiple, there's a lot of ways I could go with the end of that sentence, and I just decided on personal life. Let's go with this, though. Can he support multiple fantasy relevant wide receivers?
The key thing here is wide receivers, and that's why the answer is no. The Jets have a lot of mouths to feed on purpose. They paid 2 tight ends, C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin's going to be a focal point of that passing attack. Corey Davis is still there, making a lot of money, and he's going to start. They brought back Braxton Berrios, who's not going to be a starter, but a guy they will use in the slot.
1,000%.
They will use him in the slot. So, no, I don't think Zach Wilson can support multiple fantasy wide receivers, but the guy you should be buying in this offense is Elijah Moore. He's the most talented. He's explosive. He's really a Brandon Cooks clone. They like playing him on the outside. Their base offense, and they showed this. A lot of people didn't catch it because Zach Wilson got hurt, and that's where the focus was. Their base offense with the starters is Corey Davis on the outside, Elijah Moore on the outside, not the slot. On the outside, Garrett Wilson in the slot. Now, I do think Garrett Wilson can be a highly functional player from the slot. He has inside-outside versatility. But once again, is this a high-powered offense yet? No, but Elijah Moore is the guy to own.
Yeah, and I don't think people appreciate. I think people just forget what Elijah Moore did last year. Again, from weeks 9 through 13, he was the second best wide receiver in terms of total points and fantasy points per game. He caught at least 1 touchdown in 4 or 5 games. And if you remember, it was like Mike Smith and then Zach Wilson and Joe Flacco. It didn't matter who was under center for the Jets.
That's the key point. Here's the catch. He's good with Joe Flacco.
Right.
So, and Flacco's going to play week 1. It's probably the worst kept secret. So you don't have to worry about a drop-off with Moore to Flacco. I actually think Moore has looked better with Flacco.
Right. By the way, pretty good and interesting DFS play in week 1 for you. I would just say there with Elijah Moore and Joe Flacco under center. 5th among rookies in receiving yards last year as well. Mike White, what did I say?
Mike Smith.
He played
the
with
most generic American name of all
exactly. I'm sorry. He did not play with the former Falcons head coach. He played with Mike White. Apologies to Mike White and Coach Smith on that. But anyway, whatever. Elijah Moore, if Mike Smith was quarterback, Elijah Moore would still be good. Anyway, I think people are sleeping on Elijah Moore. I'm at wide receiver 32, 68th overall. Yahoo has him at wide receiver 35, 82nd overall. So I'm higher in the positional and the consensus overall ranks on him. Again, he made the love list yesterday. Check out Love Hate, by the way, is up on Rotoworld.com, NBCSportsEdge.com, and it is free, baby. It is 100% free. All of my work will be free. And people are like, oh, you're just going to get us hooked and then you're going to try. No, listen.
No catch.
No catch, guys. It is literally, it's in my deal, guys. It's in my deal. I'm going to be at NBC for a long, long time, and it's in my deal. As long as I'm writing, it's going to be free. So just so you know there, appreciate NBC for that. Please go to rotoworld.com or NBC Sports Edge to check that out.
All right, sticking with rookie wide receivers.
Yes,
sir. We opened the show with Damien Pierce, the talk of town.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the talk of town and wide receiver, it's been George Pickens. There's no secret about that. 2nd-round wide receiver, guy with a fascinating background coming out of Georgia. Not a ton of production, was hurt, but the talent's always been there. He's exploded this summer. And my question to you, Matthew Berry, is it seems like the world has forgotten about Chase Claypool.
Yeah.
Is George Pickens going to make everybody continue to forget about Chase Claypool, or are you still interested in the value that he brings with the Steelers starters?
So George Pickens is currently going wide receiver 43. Chase Claypool going as wide receiver 49. This is on Yahoo. Okay,
it's almost a pick 'em.
Right. I mean, and so Pickens is going ahead of Chase Claypool, and I think I'm not a Chase Claypool fan. To be clear, I think too many mental mistakes, feels immature. But having said that, I think one thing that people are overlooking here with Claypool is he's a big guy. He's a big guy. What is Claypool like?
6'4",
yeah, something like that.
half,
yeah, 6'4" and a half.
240.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a tight end at wide receiver.
Exactly. And they're playing him out of the slot this year. Like, I'm just trying to think of like that guy in the slot against a linebacker is unfair.
Yeah.
Is unfair. And so I just 6'4", 240. I'm being told in my ear by Brian Rubin, who's again apologetic about rookies versus veterans. I apologize to the audience as well, very specifically there. 19% of Claypool's routes were from the slot last year, but he didn't run very much. But when he did run, he was targeted like a decent amount when he ran out of the slot last year. I don't know. I think people will be surprised at how productive he is in that spot. I think that's a really smart move by Pittsburgh to put him there.
So let me throw it back to the Zach Wilson argument. Can Trubisky or Pickett, and it's probably going to be both this year, let's have an honest conversation, support Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and Najee Harris? What do you do with that?
I actually think they can.
Okay.
I think they can because, by the way, they were supported last year. I mean, so obviously not Pickens.
The corpse of Big Ben.
Small Ben, as we go, right? I mean, right. That's, by the way, shout out to Jay Croucher. That's his joke, not mine, but I'm stealing it because he's not here. He's getting served by kangaroos on the beach. Again, to me, the key is the bow tie. Like, because
they're not your friends.
No. And they probably have like a little red vest too. Like a little red vest.
And they hold the tray.
Right, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Because if a kangaroo just comes up to you, you're like, oh my God. But if they've got a little bow tie, then they're cute. Then they're like waiters.
It's fair.
Then they're like waiters, and they hop up, and they just, they reach into
until
their pouch.
Until they karate chop you.
No. You don't get tipped if you're. Listen, the kangaroos in Australia, they're trained. They're smart. Like if you want to be, you want to tip, you don't kick the customer.
Fair.
Everyone knows this, Connor.
They have the bottle opener in the pouch. Is that the waiter we're looking here, or no?
I think it's around their neck.
Okay.
That's what I've decided. I think it's around their neck. I haven't worked out my kangaroo waiter theory.
We're close, though. It's a working
theory. I'm workshopping it. Anyway, back to
Steelers.
Back to we're off the rails. It only took 2 segments. But what I would say is here is that I am, and I don't know that I don't think it's that controversial, but I haven't heard a lot of other people make this point. The Steelers' offense can be better this year. Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett are upgrades. And I think actually fairly significant ones over Ben Roethlisberger. What Ben Roethlisberger was last year. Big Ben is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. But the last 2 years, it's just like he wasn't the same guy.
When is he going to hang it up?
Right. Yeah. He wasn't the same guy. Right. So anyway, I actually think and so all those guys like Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris were all viable at various points last year. Obviously, Johnson, Harris were great. Freiermuth was a viable low-end tight end one. So especially given like Claypool's going at wide receiver 49, and Pickens is going at wide receiver 43. So especially at that ADP, I think both are interesting. I think it's going to be a pass first offense. All right, last one here, and we're going to New Orleans. Chris Olave or Michael Thomas. For people that are just kind of, give me your quick thoughts on Olave coming out of Ohio State, and then we can sort of talk about the situation in New Orleans.
Yeah, a pro-ready player, and that's one of the biggest compliments you can give a wide receiver because most of the time in scouting reports, it needs a bigger route tree, needs this, needs refinement. Olave played a lot of football for a big-time program. He won vertically. He won on intermediate routes. He can win in the short game. He's not a big yards after catch guy, but in this offense, that's not what is going to be required of him. It's going to be to win your assignment at all 3 levels of the football field. And say what you want or what you think about Jameis Winston, he can deliver the ball to all 3 levels of the field. So Olave is a perfect fit for what they want to do. He gets on the field immediately as, at minimum, the number 2. I don't know if I'm giving anything away here, but at the minimum, number 2 wide receiver. excellent tracking, excellent body control. That's going to play in the red zone as well, where you smaller body type, but because of the former, the tracking and the concentration, he'll make big plays in the end zone as well. So I like Olave a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Honestly, the question for me, I love Olave. I actually wanted the Commanders to get him. He was there. I was hoping he would fall to the Commanders. He fell to the Commanders. And then they traded to the Saints, and the Saints wound up with Olave anyway.
Interesting move.
It was they got Dotson. They got
good.
some extra. Dotson's good too, and they love him. I will tell you,
Yeah.
in Washington, they love Jahan Dotson, and he's crushing it in camp. And they got some extra picks, and we'll see how that pans out. Certainly, Washington had some depth needs. Having said that, to me, the answer to this question is Michael Thomas healthy?
That's all it is.
Because if Michael Thomas is healthy, he's the guy.
Yep.
I mean, we like Olave. I'm with you as a number 2. And I prefer Olave to Jarvis Landry if we're looking at the Saints passing tree. But if Michael Thomas is healthy, he's the wide receiver you want in New Orleans. But that's the big question. If he's he's dealing with a hamstring injury, and so we just don't know about him. I would say that when you think about Olave going wide receiver 47, given the injury history of Thomas, even if Thomas the hammy clears up and he's going to be there for week 1, I think Olave's a really interesting late round guy because there's probably a chance Michael Thomas misses some time. And to your point, he's pro-ready. We think this is going to be a pretty good offense. Winston is a professional quarterback. Again, I use that phrase all the time. There are flaws in Jameis Winston's game, but he can support fantasy-relevant wide receivers. He's a vertical thrower. I think Olave's a really good wide receiver for Jameis Winston's skill set.
Yes.
So I think it was a smart move by New Orleans and knowing what they were dealing with this year. So given where he's going, again, 109th overall, I think Chris Olave becomes really interesting there. I'm told in my ear by my producers we can go to break. And what I would say to my producers is don't tell me what to do. I'll decide when we go to break. Okay, now we can go to break.
What do you think of Randall Cobb?
Mahomes or Rodgers? Mahomes or
Rodgers?
Watch yourself.
I've been with both of them. I've been with both of them, and I'm going to be honest. I think Pat is unbelievably good, but A-Rod is on a whole different level.
Oh, he said it. We heard it from the man himself.
Super, super weird. Hey, Sammy Watkins, do you like your current wife or your ex-girlfriend? I love my ex-girlfriend, but my current wife is my. What's he gonna say? By the way, I agree with him. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest to ever play the game, but Mahomes is pretty ridiculous too. I don't. Listen, I'm not an NFL wide receiver. I think jury's still out if Sammy Watkins is still at this point too. But I'm just.
That was good. That was a good stray. Really good stray.
Poor Sammy Watkins. Just man, I was sitting in my locker answering a question. Who the hell's Matthew Berry? By the way, fair question, Sammy Watkins. Very fair question. But to say that Aaron Rodgers is a whole nother level, I don't know that I would agree with that.
The difference isn't that drastic.
No. And by the way, if they were having an NFL draft today where all the players, Mahomes goes ahead, well, it's not fair because of the age, but
yes.
At similar points in their career, Aaron Rodgers didn't get on the field for 4 years or whatever because he had to back up Brett Favre.
Yeah.
So, Mahomes, at this point where Mahomes is in his career, I don't think Rodgers had even taken a snap. So, whatever. It's insane. It's like somebody saying to me, hey, Barry, what's better, ESPN or NBC? Well, look where I'm sitting. Listen, all due respect to ESPN, I had a great 15 years there, but what do you think I'm going to answer if somebody asks me that? I'm a proud peacock, baby. Proud peacock. Woohoo.
Is that what they do? That's what they do, right?
I'm peacocking. I'm fuming. Isn't that what they call it?
I think
what do they call it when a peacock does? It's you peacocking. I'm peacocking.
Peacocking.
There we go. I'm peacocking. So there you go. 100%. I'm peacocking. All right. So it is time for burning questions for the NFC North. We had a graphic for that because Steve D'Agostino was in charge of that. B. Rubes had segment 2, no graphics, but Steve had segment 3 and hooked a brother up. The burning question here from Steve for the Packers as we get into our NFC North burning question is, what is Aaron Rodgers' floor without Davante Adams? I've heard of Davante Adams. And I don't think, I'll just say this, I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to be a big part of this offense.
No.
He's a big name, I get it, and it's a kind of a shame because we loved him coming out of college and he's had flashes.
Doesn't play.
The best ability is availability.
That's
right?
it. Can't make the club in the tub.
Can't make the club in the tub. Heads up, Jay Croucher. Can't make the club in the tub. Just saying. All right. What is Aaron Rodgers' floor without Davante Adams, my friend?
No fear here. Floor,
Thank you.
I mean, you're still a top 12 guy easily.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing people are really looking at here is does the offense transition more to a rushing attack, the two-headed rushing attack? And it's still going to do that. But we've talked about his numbers without Davante Adams before.
1,000%.
Allen Lazard is a viable player. They have other wide receivers, whether it's Romeo Doubs, obviously, that's broken out this summer. I don't have a fear at all.
And they have the running
Rodgers.
They have the running backs here, as you see it there on your screen, right? Without Davante Adams since 2019, so basically in the Matt LaFleur era. Under Matt LaFleur's offense, without Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers has 19 touchdowns in 7 games. He has over 292 passing yards per game. He averages 24.6 fantasy points per game. He'd still been QB2 in PPR formats, right? Or whatever, PPR doesn't matter for quarterbacks. But anyway.
Matters for Aaron Jones.
What?
Matters for Aaron Jones.
Matters for Aaron Jones. That's the thing. And I have a question for you. I'm just throwing you a curveball here.
Please.
But everyone's talking about, and this is including me, and we did a whole thing yesterday on the Love Hate Show. Check that out if you missed that. That's on demand on Peacock and the NFL and NBC YouTube channel now. But we did a whole thing whereas I think both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are loves. I think they're both undervalued because I think it's, to your point, it's a more balanced rushing attack. Does Aaron Rodgers maybe throw 35 touchdown passes instead of north of 40 this year? Yeah, probably. But he's still going to be a very viable fantasy quarterback. If you wait on quarterback and you leave the draft with Aaron Rodgers, I think you are absolutely set. I'm in some expert flex, super flex draft and best ball, and Aaron Rodgers is my quarterback that I got like in the 9th round or something ridiculous. So I think you're totally fine there with him. But here's my curveball question for you. So we think the running backs are both more involved from running, and I think they're both heavily involved in the passing game. Are we all forgetting about Bob Tonyan?
Because of the injury, maybe we are.
Right, right. Yeah. But appears to be fully, as far as I know, I think he's going to be fully healthy for this year. Yeah.
Big Bobby touchdowns.
Big Bobby. I don't know. For a late round flyer at tight end, I think he's sort of interesting here. I'm a Romeo Doubs believer, but I also think the biggest value in Green Bay is Allen Lazard because Romeo Doubs is getting so much Damien Pierce, George Pickens hype that people are forgetting Allen Lazard is going to be the #1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, and that has a lot of value.
It has so much value. And in that offense, you have to run block as a wide receiver, which means Allen Lazard does not come off the field. That in itself has value.
Let's quickly move to the Vikings here. Can you make an argument for Dalvin Cook at running back 3? I think this offense is going to explode.
I think so too.
My theory.
Yeah, What is your take?
Well, listen. Here's a guy who finished as a top 2 running back in 2020 and 2019. Right, he averaged 22.5 fantasy points per game in those 2 seasons. 283 touches last year, 7th among running backs. Like he's a bell cow running back.
Yep.
You got to make sure you grab Alexander Mattison late in your draft if you draft Dalvin Cook because he's never played every game in an NFL season. But we think this offense is going to explode. We think it's going to be kind of Rams East, if you will, Rams Midwest, whatever you want to call it. And so you just think about the running backs in L.A. last year, whether it was Darrell Henderson or Cam Akers, they produce. So I still have Eckler at 3, but if you drafted Dalvin Cook at 3 or 4, I ain't looking at you weird. And lastly, real quickly, are we too low on Adam Thielen?
Well, I'll start with that one. Yes, we are, because Thielen, it's really the same story for both these guys.
100%.
Are they on the field? Because when they are, they produce. They produce as touchdown scorers. You don't worry about the change of system for Cook because now it's just more multiple. Cook was playing mostly outside zone last year, and he's going to thrive in any run scheme. They're just going to run different run principles, outside zone, inside zone. He's fine with that. He's a scheme-proof runner. So you don't worry about the change. You actually like it, like you said, Rams of the North, whatever we want to call them.
Right.
But when
it's going to be a high-flying offense. And here, Adam Thielen is going as wide receiver 29. This is insane to me. Wide receiver 29 on Yahoo. Here's a guy that was wide receiver 14 on a points per game basis last year. His last 28 games, he's got 24 touchdowns. I mean, he has more touchdowns than Justin Jefferson. I get the injuries concerns, but this is going to be a high-flying offense. He's still the #2. They're going to be throwing a ton. Adam Thielen is a proven fantasy producer. The injury concern is baked into his ADP. Adam Thielen made the love list. As he should. Throwing more
and they're taking Tyler Conklin, a bit of a target monster or maybe an annoyance to those guys, out of that offense. He's gone now. So it's Thielen and Justin Jefferson, target monsters.
Here's the entire list of wide receivers that have had at least 10 touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons, 10 or more. Mike Evans, you've heard of him. Devontae Adams.
Pretty good.
DK Metcalf. Adam Thielen. That's the list. 3 of those guys are going a lot higher than Adam Thielen, who's going to be in a really good offense. Again, Adam Thielen makes the love list for me. Next question, we move over to the lines here. DeAndre Swift can finish as running back what this season? What's the ceiling for DeAndre Swift?
I think the ceiling's around 12, 10 to 12.
Wow,
for Swift,
okay.
which is very, very high. I think a lot of people don't realize how talented this offensive line is and that they need to run the ball, obviously, with Jared Goff. Their whole passing attack is based off of play action. So you see Swift there at number 10 in your rankings. I think he has the talent to do it. I just do worry a little bit about red zone touches to Jamal Williams at times. Also based on that Swift is a guy that in the NFL has gotten banged up a little bit. But the talent is there. He's their most explosive runner. And I can't emphasize this enough. That could be a top 4 to 5 offensive line in football this year, Matthew Berry.
Honestly, the answer is how high can it be? I think he can be Austin Eckler. I think he can be a top 3 or 4 running back. Again, this is a guy who last year had the 4th most targets and receptions among running backs. He had 78 targets last year. He was running back 8 in fantasy points per game. So, again, he needs to stay in the field. Health is a concern, but we think the Lions are going to be better. Jay and I talked about the fact that we actually both like Dan Campbell in terms of his odds for Coach of the Year. That's our favorite bet on Coach of the Year. We expect a tremendous improvement here from the Lions. Jared Goff not scared to check down to DeAndre Swift. He's running behind it, to your point, a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. If he can stay healthy, and if he can stay healthy, and that's always the caveat, but I think the sky's the limit here. Again, as you said, I have him as a top 10 running back, so I'm even higher on him than you are. Last one here, we go to the Bears. Is Darnell Mooney the only fantasy-relevant player on this offense? That is a question for my producers. By the way, my producers have not read, love, hate. You'd think, if I could get one person, my wife, my kids, and my producers. I don't know if anyone else reads the column, but could my producers at least read the column? But no, they did not, because Cole Kmet is on my love list.
And I love that
asked and answered. Asked and answered, guys. Yes, Darnell Mooney is not the only fantasy-relevant player on the Bears because Cole Kmet's on the Bears. And I love me some Cole Kmet. But why don't we talk about Darnell Mooney, who's currently going as wide receiver 32. That strikes me as a little bit low. I had Mooney on my love list. I'm at wide receiver 28, and I'm at overall 60. He's going 73 on Yahoo, so I'm significantly higher, a round and a half higher, really, in terms of the overall consensus. 140 targets for him in 2021, and now no Allen Robinson.
It's all there for Mooney, but I want to get to Kmet, like you said, because the answer we know about Mooney, and we know Mooney is a factor. Cole Kmet, to me, is going to be a fringe top 10 tight end this year because this offense, the offensive line is bad, but that actually helps Cole Kmet because this offense is going to be based on rolling Justin Fields out, giving 3 levels of play. He's going to throw to Cole Kmet in the middle of the field all the time, catch and run opportunities. Listen, Cole Kmet is going to be a target monster outside of Mooney. He is in line for a big-time season, and he's red zone viable. That's the thing, too. It's all there.
1,000%. Again, this is one of the reasons why Kmet made the love list. Over 90 targets last year, 0 touchdowns. So much is made of we're going to get positive regression for Kyle Pitts. So we are with Cole Kmet, who doesn't have the draft capital of Kyle Pitts. I'm not saying he is Kyle Pitts, but he's a discount Kyle Pitts. Because he is going to get a tremendous amount of targets. To have 90 targets in that offense last year, the disaster that last year was, and to get 0 touchdowns when there were 34 targets to the 3 other tight ends, Jimmy Graham and the rest, and they scored 6 touchdowns on 34, 0 on 90. He's going to score 6 to 8 to possibly
easily,
even 10 touchdowns. Cole Kmet, with all those guys, Jesper's out, all of those guys. So give me some Cole Kmet, who's going easily outside the top 10 of tight ends. When we return, it is last call. Get your orders in. Last call is up next on the Fantasy Football Happy Hour as we roll in on a Friday. All right, here's how to find all your Matthew Berry content. First off, watch on Peacock and the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You can watch the show on demand anywhere you want. Listen to the show anywhere you get your podcasts and on the NBC Sports channel on SiriusXM Radio. by the way, please check me out on social media, right? I am at Matthew Berry TMR on all forms of social media, except the Fantasy Life app, where I'm merely at Matthew Berry. And, of course, NBCSportsEdge.com for love-hate, my rankings, my 100 facts, and everything else. We're last call here, so we don't have a lot of time here. I made I want your question on who do you like for best bet for NFL MVP? My ride or die, Jalen Hurts, is at plus 2,500, or Jay's MVP at Lamar Jackson plus 1,800, his ride or die.
I would take Jalen Hurts, even if the value was even, and it's not. You're getting plus 2,500 on Hurts, plus 1,800 for Lamar. Jalen Hurts going to have a massive season, and here's another thing. The Eagles are going to be good. The Eagles are going to be really good. That matters in MVP voting.
Thank you very much. Same thing. Trey Lance at plus 3,000 or Kirk Cousins plus 4,000 is my choice. Give me Kirk Cousins at plus 4,000. Yes. We just talked about the Vikings. I think they explode. If they do it and win it, it'll be because of Cousins. I love at plus 4,000. All right. That's the end of the week. For Connor Rogers, I'm Matthew Berry. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Have a great weekend. Peace out.